Hello gamers and welcome back. I'm Rob, of course, or Warcheck if you want to call me by my in-game name. And guys, we are getting closer and closer to the Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion. We're just roughly, I think, a week away, maybe a little bit shorter than that when this video gets released to you guys. So I will continue to provide you with all of the reviews as soon as I can, as fast as I can, but I want to keep these videos to roughly 20 cards, so if they release like 50 in one day, it's going to be broken up because there's no way I can review 50 cards and spend a good amount of time on each one. I'm not trying to make no 3-hour card review video. So the first card we're going to talk about is going to be the Burlog, the 2-mana 2/2 Battlecry, freeze an enemy minion. Of course, the Shaman class is going to be getting this. Synergize as well with the new legendary we saw. Again, we've heard, I've mentioned this before, I'm not really sure where they're going with the freeze mechanic in the Shaman deck when mages still need more freeze to make like a good freeze tempo deck. I don't know where they're going. Like, if they would have just taken away all the freeze from the Shaman and given it to the mage where it makes sense, that'd been great. So if we would have saw like another version of Glacial Shard, instead of like being a 1-mana 2/1 Battlecry freeze an enemy minion, make like a 3 or 4 mana card and stat it a little bit higher, like a 3-mana 3/3 freeze an enemy minion, or something like a 2-mana 2/2. Rip. No, I'm not gonna try to copy the Burlog. But anyway, good card in my opinion. I think it's a pretty good Murloc for the most part. I mean, the fact that you get freeze an enemy minion is huge. A lot of cases it allows you to stall your opponent out, but again, that's more of like a mage mechanic, not really a shaman mechanic. And as we know, shaman's been a class that receives very high statted minions for a low cost. That's always been a common trend. 4-drop 7/7, totem golem, tunnel trog, the list goes on. So seeing this card is kind of just weird for me. The Murlocs and Shaman isn't weird. Murlocs have always been, for some reason, a Paladin Shaman thing and a Warlock thing. It's weird that they just keep branching out like that, and there's not really any, I don't know, consistency on it. But either way, interesting card. If Murloc's so good, this will be good. The next card is going to be Ice Fishing, some more Murloc cards. So a 2-mana, draw 2 Murlocs from your deck. A 2-mana, draw 2 is good. I mean, we look at Arcane Intellect and it's found in every mage deck, right? And it costs 3 mana, draw 2 cards. Granted, they're not just only 2 Murlocs, but if you're playing a Murloc deck, drawing 2 Murlocs is really good, especially if you're playing the Murloc Quest deck. Not that it's like, you know, a tier 1 or tier 2 or even a tier 3 deck. It still adds fun to the deck. You know, it adds a little bit more consistency in being able to draw Murlocs, because currently the Quest Murloc deck for Shaman is basically you just fill your deck full of the cheapest Murlocs you can find. You play as many of them as fast as possible. You try to do as much chip damage as you can while trading minions. If you can maybe get off a cheeky, what is it? The Anyfin buff or whatever it is. Maybe get off a buff like that, or a cheeky Bloodlust, that's good too. And then you know, you get your quest completed and then you refill your hand full of Murlocs because you've extended all of your Murlocs onto the board at a cheap price because you're trying to complete the quest as fast as possible. So Ice Fishing kind of helps with that a little bit. Also, there could be maybe a mid-range Murloc Shaman in the midst. You know, we're seeing a lot of freeze and kind of stall effects with decent statted minions, so maybe we'll see something like that. But overall, I don't think it's going to be that crazy of a card. Corpse Widow. Moving to Hunter, we have a 5-mana 4/6, so the stats are pretty good. They're not terribly bad, but they're not crazy good. It's a beast, which is nice. The picture looks pretty cool in my opinion. And your Death Rattle cards cost 2 less. So you're taking away from the stats a little bit, but you're giving him ability that's pretty nice, and it's not like a one-turn thing where Battlecry, your Death Rattles cost 2 less, or, you know, when this dies, it's just straight up your Death Rattle costs 2 less. So when you play this, you can play any of your 1 or 2 mana Death Rattles you have in your hand, and then the following turn, which is normally where you'd play Savannah Highmane, you could follow that up with like a Savannah Highmane and a 2-drop for free, or a Savannah Highmane, a 2-drop and a hero power. So this is like, it allows for a really big tempo play the following turn, or just even if you drop this guy, because if you have 2 of the Kindly Grandmothers in your hand, not that that's the best thing to have going on to turn 6, you want stuff more powerful than that, but if you've got a lot of cheap minions in your hand, you drop this guy and you flood the board, or at least flood the board 1 to 2 minions, which is huge in Hunter because they have Death Rattle, which means they're gonna, you know, continuously keep the board under control for at least 2 lives, right? So good card. I think this will, I mean, I like it, I really do. It's not like you play this Hunter card and you do damage to their face. It's not like it's a charge minion. It's not like it's buffing the beast. It's just a beast with a good ability that's not overly statted for the cost. the cost of its ability, that is. So I think it might in fact be played. I wouldn't mind throwing maybe one of these in my mid-range hunter, possibly two if I'm going to play like a death rattle hunter, like mid-range death rattle hunter, but we'll see. I'll definitely give it a good testing, that's for sure. The next one's going to be a priest card, Devour Mind. So copy 3 cards in your opponent's deck and then add them to your hand. So basically, as we know, what is it? It's not Mind Seer, but there's the 1 mana, copy a card in your opponent's hand, 1 mana, grab 1 card. Then you have your Thought Steal, which is 3 mana, grab 2 cards. And now we have our 5 mana, grab 3 cards. So it's just progressively going up for the mana cost. Also, another card that kind of, not similar, but, 5 mana, generate 3 cards, Kabbalist Tome, generate 3 random mage cards, fits right into the slot of Devour Mind. So as we can see, Priest getting more and more random, generating more and more value. It's really what the class has always been about. Rogue's starting to enter that really random territory. I don't know why. Like some classes, I agree, it gives them a little edge. Rogue, Mage, or Priest, sure, give one of those classes a good amount of random cards because the class sucks and it needs to take everything from everybody else's class, right? But having multiple classes that have a large variance and like generate random this, generate random that, I just don't think it's healthy. But this follows along with like Thought Steal and stuff like that, and the whole Priest kit in anyway. So it's no shock to see a card like this. Will this card see play in a Priest deck? I'm not sure. Is it a good card to just randomly generate from like a Lyra? Yes, it's a high value card. Is it a good card? Sorry guys, Brody's over here. For those of you who don't know Brody, he's the new doggo. But anyway, I was making sure he wasn't peeing in my house. Don't pee in the house, dog. Yeah, good card, and maybe a one of, we'll have to see, but there's already like a lot of Priest cards that I think they're going to be played that aren't played until late game, and this is one of those cards where it doesn't really feel that great to play it on turn 5 unless there's like nothing going on the board. Like you're going to Devour Mind into like a Dragonfire Potion because you're hoping your opponent will overextend, right? But that's always not the best situation to be in. You want a Dragonfire Potion when you set that shit up, not that you have to do it. You're like, oh shit, I got Dragonfire on 6 or I'm going to die. Normally those aren't the best games. The next card is going to be an Obsidian statue, or Obsidian statue, hopefully I said that correctly. The 9 mana 4/8, you're like, well, that's a high mana price, no doubt. And the stats are the same stats of a Primordial Drake, but Primordial Drake cost 8 instead of 9, and it has Taunt, which Primordial Drake has. Lifesteal, which is pretty good, the new effect that whenever it's going to deal damage, it's going to be able to heal for 4, which is pretty high in my opinion. Like if you're playing against an aggro deck and you drop this bad boy on the board and they attack it twice, you gained 8 life and you probably killed 2 minions. So that's a pretty big swing. And it's Death Rattle, which of course it's going to synergize well with the Priest quest and N'Zoth. Destroy a random enemy minion. Normally effects like this aren't that great because during your opponent's turn when they're going to be killing this card, they're going to set it up so they really don't lose. They're going to give themselves the best situation to kill the least powerful minion on their board, right? So this effect isn't really what makes it great in particular, but the Death Rattle allows it to, of course, come back, and the Taunt is what makes it really annoying. On top of that, maybe you can trade it off on your turn where it kills their best minion. You can trade it into a mid-range minion. This is already taking some damage. You're able to kill their big minion, and then you drop an N'Zoth, and then you've got full board clear, and you were able to heal, and you've dropped a Taunt. So big swings here. Another combination Crip had pointed out in his video is the new 4 mana Priest card that allows you to discover a card that's died this game and resummon it. So if you go something like Barnes, and Barnes summons this guy from your deck, normally you want Barnes to give you some crazy, effect ability like Yasharge or Ysera, but when this guy comes out and he dies, you'll actually, when you bring him back to life, get the full one, not the 1 mana one. So this guy on turn 5 would be absolutely crazy and probably win you the game on the spot versus any, I want to say, aggro to mid-range deck, unless they run something like a Polymorph, and at that point they're not even killing the real one, they're just killing a 4 mana spell that brought the one back from the grave. So will this card be played? Maybe a one of. Maybe we can start migrating away from the Dragon Priest, as it's really the only viable Priest archetype besides like Meme Priest with the Silence Priest, which it's a good deck, but we've seen a lot less of that on the meta lately, right? Like there hasn't, like when you get queued up against a Priest, you put your cards down that it's a dragon of some sorts, right? So maybe moving away from dragons and seeing, more of a control Priest era again with, Cabal Shadow Priest, Pint-Sized Potion to take, a minion. I mean, that's happened a couple times for me on ladder recently, where I'll play Aya, they'll Pint-Sized Potion, Cabal Shadow Priest, and they'll take my Aya, which is huge. So, not a bad card at all. It's an expensive card, but not a bad card. There's a difference between a bad expensive card and a good expensive card, and that's not a bad one. 9 mana is a wanky kind of spot because, you know, it's just not, you can't really do much when you play that guy, but he's still, I think he's pretty good. Shadow Ascendant. The 2 mana 2/2 at the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1/+1. See, this is an ability that it's random, like it's picking a random target, right? But you know what the fuck it does. Like, it's giving +1/+1 to a random friendly target. It's not creating something that you can't play around. So there's good randomness and there's bad randomness. I would categorize this as, you know, pretty good randomness. Like, you understand the card, whatever it's going to land on can be manipulated to the best of your ability. It's still going to be random, but at least you know what the fuck it does. It doesn't belong into any particular class, no elementals, none of that. So it's kind of just like, I think it adds to the good 2-drops that you can get from random abilities. But besides that, do I think it's going to be played a whole bunch? Probably not. The next one's going to be moving on to a mage card, the Glacial Mysteries. So we got some Mysterious Challenger for mage. It's an 8 mana, put one of each secret from your deck into the battlefield. It's a really, really slow card, don't get me wrong. Is it a really good card? I don't know yet. By turn 8, you know, you've drawn or played a large quantity of secrets in your deck, and if you haven't drawn or played them, they're currently out on the battlefield, and you can't have more than one of the same secret out. So how good is this card? Not sure. If it's a decent, like, random generation ability, so if you play Yogg and Yogg plays Glacial Mysteries and you still have 2 secrets in the deck, sure, it's pretty good, right? But is it a card that's going to make her... am I going to put this in my Tempo Secret Mage? Absolutely fucking not. I am never going to play this card in my mage deck. I don't think so. It could be randomly generated in the deck, and then I play it, sure. But am I going to play an 8 mana card that doesn't do anything besides play secrets? Probably not. Unless, like, they print like 2 really good mage secrets that, like, this basically has to play at least 3 secrets to be 1 mana worth it, right? Because 3 secrets would cost 9 mana. This costs 8 mana. Granted, but Rob, it thins the deck. Sure, it's going to thin the deck in a meta that looks pretty fatiguey right now. So I don't really know how great that's going to be if you're trying to, you know, keep the cards in your deck and you're playing 3 of them. And that's way far ahead. You know, I don't know how the meta's going to look. It's never been, every expansion, everybody, it's going to be the control meta. It's going to be the next big control fatigue meta. It never is. It gets faster. The meta always gets faster. Multiple streamers have said this, and I would have to tend to agree with it for the most part. Just look at this as every other expansion. I mean, I hope it gets slower. I love control decks, but I wouldn't be surprised if things don't go the way everybody thinks they will, like it normally does. Moving to the next one. This is an interesting card. I'm not sure what I think of it yet. It's the 3 mana. Copy the lowest cost minion in your hand. So you're paying 3 mana and you're copying a minion in your hand, which it could actually be a huge minion, right? You could have like Arcane Giant in your hand with no other minion, and you've generated another Arcane Giant for 3 mana. Again, granted that that's the only creature in your hand. So this is going to, if it does work, this is going to fit into some combo mage deck where they're copying a creature that either has a really high impact ability, which we haven't seen yet, or it's a combo activator for something else. So again, this could be used in decks like the Exodia Mage to generate another apprentice. So you actually can run different things besides the, what is it? The not mirror image. The 4 mana reflection card, Molten Reflection. So now you have the ability to reflection a card in your hand, and they don't know what that card is, and they don't know what you're missing, and you can use this kind of to your disposal. So maybe it's a replacement, maybe it's not, maybe it won't be used, maybe it will. I think it's a really interesting card with a unique ability, but how useful will it be? Again, I have no fucking clue. It's impossible for me to guess the meta until I get to actually sit down and we get to play with these cards. And once we start doing our deck testings and start building some of these decks and making modifications, I can give you a good insight. Normally a week and a half after the new cards hit, I bring out the monthly meta video, and I kind of hammer out what I think are going to be the most popular decks and the at least 20 to 25 cards that are like core cards in those decks. So we'll just have to wait. The next card we're going to talk about is Treachery. It's a Warlock card. The 3 mana, choose a friendly minion, give it to your opponent. So it says your opponent gains control of it, but give it to your opponent. So the first initial reaction is, you know, Doomsayer. Cards like Doomsayer, where it's really bad for your opponent to have, and normally when you play Doomsayer, you hope your opponent can't kill it, right? So you play Doomsayer, and for Mage, they would Frost Nova the board, they'd freeze everything, right? So the opponent can't attack, and the opponent either has to use, you know, one of their unique CC abilities like a Hex, a Polymorph, a Meteor, a Fireball, stuff like that, stuff they don't want to use on just a 0/7, only if they want to protect their minions. But Treachery allows Warlock now to have the ability to go, you know, Doomsayer, Treachery, their Doomsayer, give it to your opponent. It's the start of your opponent's turn now because you've ended your turn, and now their whole board explodes. It costs 5 mana. It's a two card combo. Will that be used? I think it's a decent card, maybe a handlock. I think if they print other cards, like if this, like deal 5 damage to the owner of this at the start of every turn, or maybe deal 3 damage to the owner of this at the start of every turn, and it's like an 0/4, you know, you can Treachery that card to your opponent's side of the board, and then if they can't kill it or get rid of it or buff it, they're just going to end up taking 3 damage every turn. And I like cards like that. It reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! If anybody remembers Lava Golem, you know, sack 2 of your opponent's minions, they get a 3,000 attack creature, but they take 1,000 at the start of every turn, but then you'd play a trap or a spell card that makes it so minions with the attack over 1,500 can't attack. It's called a burn deck, and I love those kinds of decks. I actually built a $20 burn deck a couple months back and entered a small tournament, and I fucked some kids up. They were playing their $300 super combo. There was cards that I had never even dreamed about in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I know it's a little off subject, but you know, I went back to the OGs, man, and but they're like, what does that card even do? And I was like, same question to you, man. Your card has like 15 paragraphs worth of text. Mine has 2 sentences, and you just lost. Moving to Unwilling Sacrifice, the 3 mana Warlock card. Choose a friendly minion, destroy it, and a random enemy minion as well. So, not a bad card in my opinion. It's a 1-for-1, but you pay 1, but the card you're going to kill hopefully has a death rattle that you want to trigger. Hopefully, you know, playing this on something like Sylvanas could be really interesting. More of a wild combo of sorts, but not a bad. You can play this in your not token Warlock, but maybe a Zoo Warlock will find use for this, just to get a good removal. You know, Warlock lacks really cheap good removal that's decent. Corruption, I don't really count that. And Soulfire is something you never really want to use on a minion. That's more of like a face at the end of the game or a discard mechanic. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Soulfire is your cheap removal. But either way, Unwilling Sacrifice, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's particularly the best card in the world, but I don't think it's the worst card in the world. And it goes right with what Warlock does, you know, killing its own minions and healing itself, killing its own minions, killing your opponent's minions, you know, sacrificing minions to buff minions. That's always been kind of what I think a Warlock should do, and this follows that exact to the T. Roll the Bones, the 2 mana rogue card. Draw a card. If it has death rattle, cast this again. So rogue, the drawing with a rogue is really important. It's the whole class revolves, well, it used to revolve around combo, now it's more random shit. But either way, I like this card. I like them pushing like more of a death rattle control rogue, even though the rogue hero power and most of the rogue decks right now are very, I wouldn't say fast paced, but they're, you know, they're not control decks. So cards like this make it so maybe something like a control rogue or a late game rogue can exist. Sorry, Brody came up and he started wanting some attention. You know what? Let's pull Brody up. Brody boy, come here. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, this is the new doggo. He's a very cute doggo. He's a very good doggo. He's a very smart doggo. And he loves Hearthstone, don't you, buddy? Yeah, very good. Very good. Somebody on Reddit did a calculation of how many death rattles you would have to have in your deck in order for this to draw an X amount of cards, and they made a chart. So if I happen to figure out where that post was, I'll pull it up and add the picture for you guys on the top here, just so you can get an indication of how many cards you would draw based on how many death rattles you have in your deck, which I think is some really useful information. Next card we're going to talk about is the 4 mana 5/3 Runeforge Haunter. During your turn, your weapon does not lose durability. I think this is really good. It's a really good effect. Will this card be played because it does cost 4 mana? It has 3 HP. I don't like 4 mana, 3 HP cards. I mean, it has the same stats as, what is it? It's a Jade. It's not particularly a Jade card, but his Jade's in his name, and he's a 5 mana 5/3. Discover a shaman rogue or druid card. I know he's at the top of my head, but anyway, that card isn't played, and I think that card's pretty good. So maybe 1 mana cheaper, a card like this can see play. And during your turn, your weapon doesn't lose durability, so of course you attack with weapons on your turn. And if you're, what seems to be, this expansion is pushing decent sized weapons. You're giving it not lifelink. You're giving it life steal and more attack and shit like that. So maybe this is found in like a weapon rogue. Maybe there is a new archetype coming, you know, weapon rogue, where it's all about preserving your weapons, buffing your weapons, giving your weapons life steal so you can trade into minions, and then you gain your life back. Who the fuck knows? But this seems to be pushing something of sorts like that, you know? They wouldn't just print cards like this if it didn't matter. Like preserving our 1/2 hero power dagger that we can just use every turn doesn't make sense. They're gonna want to this card wants to preserve something good, like an assassin's blade that's been buffed multiple times, right, to get max value. So we'll see. This next card is kind of embarrassing in my opinion. A lot of the rogue legendaries that we've seen in the past, people have made fun of them, but they found their way into multiple rogue decks like Sherazin and Shaku the Collector. There's a lot of shit being talked about those cards and a lot of complaints in regards to just the rogue community as a whole. Some people we'll leave a comment like, who talk crap? No one talk crap. Everybody thought it was good. I don't know. I remember reading multiple posts on Reddit of people hating on almost all of the previous rogue legendaries. And I think this is, again, another not so good one. This is actually a not so good one. The 4 mana 4/5. So the stats are there, but it says replace spells in your hand with random spells of your opponent's class. Like, why? Like, the spells that you put in your rogue deck are there for a reason. Like, somebody had said, like, well, Rob, why don't you just put counterfeit coins in your deck, and then it could replace a 0 mana coin for a really good card. And I'm like, well, you play the coins for Auctioneer. There's a purpose to those coins. You play them for Big Edwins, you play them for Auctioneer, you play them for Questing Adventure, you tempo out stuff. Like, there's a purpose. You just don't play the coins because you're feeling coiny. So, like, what is this card? What are you trying to achieve with this card? Because replacing your Abyss for some random card, granted, it could be better than Abyss, but, like, it just doesn't, I don't know, man. Like, why did this have to be like the Rogue's Legendary? Why can't Rogue have like a 6 to 8 mana legendary that does something to help them in the late game? Like, give your dagger lifesteal. Only the dagger though. So you can deal 1 damage and heal 1 damage with your dagger when you attack with it every turn, which may not seem like a lot, but that's pretty important because you could buff your dagger. But it wouldn't work with all the weapons, just the dagger. So I don't know, man. I just feel like Rogue needed a little bit of love, just a tidbit of love. The next card's gonna be super interesting, and I like it a lot. Valier the Hollow, 9 mana. You of course gain 5 armor when you play it, and you're like, well, Rob, besides Battlecry gains stealth until the end of your turn, which, you know, they've taken out Conceal, so stealth is a pretty important, I wouldn't say important, but it's a high quality, it's a quality kind of spell. You know, you stealth something, people get kind of scared. I get scared, and with, you know, comboing this with Gadgets and Auctioneer or any big minion, you know, not being able to interact with the minions. We've seen this before with Conceal. That's why I got rotated out. It's a big thing. So again, stealth, good. 9 mana, not so good. But Rob, what's the hero power? Death Shadow. Passive hero power during your turn, add a Shadow Reflections to your hand. Rob, what the fuck is a Shadow Reflections? I don't know what this means. No problem. Here's Shadow Reflections. Each time you play a card, transform this into a copy in it. Rob, what the fuck does this mean now? So basically, there's a couple things I understand and a couple things I don't understand. Basically, think Shadowcaster with, you know, we're able to generate another minion from a minion. But the thing is, it has no mana cost, but when I was reading up this card, because I wanted to know a little bit more about it before I talked about it, it said it can't be used on cards that cost 5 mana or more. And then I looked up trying to see why that every post that has this says that, I can't seem to find it. So I'm assuming that Shadow Reflection costs 5 mana, because the hero power just says during your turn, add this card to your hand, which means you're not paying for the hero power of 2. And then Shadow Reflection doesn't cost anything. And if you play a minion that costs 5, you still have 5 mana left over. So why would the max minion that this be able to work on cost 5 mana? I don't know. So I guess this costs 5. The actual Shadow Reflection card costs 5 mana. If someone knows, please enlighten me, because I tried to look. I looked on 3 different websites, and they all said the same exact text, but the text didn't actually identify any useful information in regards to why you can only use it on a card that costs 5 mana or less. So that's what I know, and I don't know why I know, but that's just, it is what it is. So what do I think? think it's an ultimate value tool. Being able to generate cards that generate an additional card for, well, first of all, you're generating this for free. You're not spending any mana on this. At the beginning of every turn, it's going to go to your hand. At the end of every turn, it's going to get rid of it if you don't use it. Hopefully you're using it. And then you can use it on cards that have death rattles. You can use it on cards that have battle cries, and you're just being able to just forever create value. We're talking infinite value. And this is good. I like this a lot. I like Rogue having infinite value. Jade is infinite value, you know. We've built N'Zoth Jade Rogue before. Oh shit, the dog is doing very bad things right now. I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. I just see a floor full of shit that shouldn't be there. Righteous Protector. 1 mana, 1/1 taunt divine shield. Rip Argent Squire, which was basic. Hey, stop doing that. Brody, get over here. You're freaking me out, man. I don't know what the fuck you're eating. Stop, whatever. Oh, Jesus, I can't stop him. Argent Squire is a 1 mana, 1/1 divine shield. So they basically just printed a better version of that card, and they've added taunt to this. I'm assuming it has to go along with the card that they released, the neutral card that says if you have taunt, divine shield, wind fury, and all the effects and stuff, it basically generates its ability off of how many ability cards you have in your deck. So this just basically gives you 2 of them in the price of 1, but so does Tyrion. Most paladin decks run Tyrion, and Tyrion has a divine shield and taunt, so I don't really understand the point of this Righteous Protector other than just like a small power creep. But Argent Squire is going to stay in the meta forever, and Righteous Protector will eventually rotate out, so we'll see. The next card, Ultimate Infestation. Crazy, a crazy cat. 10 mana, huge, deal 5 damage. All right, draw 5 cards. Okay, gain 5 armor. Okay, summon a 5/5 ghoul. Oh my god. So this does just a whole lot of everything, right? So this gives you damage on the board, so it impacts the board immediately. It draws you cards, which gives you value. It gives you armor, which heals you, and it puts something on the board as well, which gives you tempo. So this basically is your all-around. It's not particularly great at anything. Drawing 5 cards is fucking huge, though. So I guess the drawing 5 cards out of everything is the biggest thing this does. Because if we think of Nourish is 5 mana, draw 3 cards. So if we doubled Nourish, and it costs 10 mana, we draw 6 cards, so -1 card, but deal 5 damage, gain 5 armor, and summon a 5/5. This card is it's a lot of mana, and it'll be, if you can use this card, you're in a good spot. And if you can't use this card, it's kind of like just a dead card. Where would this card be found? I wouldn't mind this fitting into a ramp druid deck. I would play one of them in a ramp druid deck. I think 2 is too many because there's already a ton of card draw and there's already great minions. But let's say you ramp up to 10 and you've used most of the cards in your hand and you just are top decking at that point. This is a great card. Also, Ancestral Communion Druid is found in Wild, and this could be a great card for that. You top deck this after you've just sacrificed your entire hand, and now you're 5 card deeps, 5 more damage on the board. You've gained armor, and you put a 5/5 down. So I think this is a pretty good card. I think that's a pretty good Druid card. And Druid's known for big dick stuff. This is a big dick card for big dick Druid. Corpse Raiser. 5 mana, 3/3 battle cry. Give a friendly minion death rattle. Resummon this minion. So obviously pushing more of a death rattle deck. Again, it's a high cost, cheap stats, great ability. Will it be played? I don't know, but this is the direction, like I mentioned in the 2 videos ago when I went on that huge fucking rant. This is the direction they need to go. If they're going to print an ability like this, it needs to be on a solely worse statted card, and it needs to have a mana cost that reflects the impact that this card is going to have when you play it. Giving your Savannah Highmane the ability to resummon itself is huge. Dealing with 2 Savannah Highmanes, you've basically paid 2.5 mana for an additional Savannah Highmane. Yes, it's weak to CC. Yes, it's weak to silence, but still you have to deal with the 6/5 body and then the death rattle of the 2/2s that come out. So will this be seen in a N'Zoth deck? Maybe. I'll give it a shot, but its ability is great. Its stats are bad, and that's the way it should be. This next card, there's a lot of stuff going on with this card on Reddit. I tried to dig a little deeper into them just to kind of because the first thing you think of is one cost spells. What are the best 1 cost spells right now? Evolve, Jade Idol. Those are the 2 that ring to my head the most. Prep's not a 1. Hallucination for Burlog. So there's a lot of powerful 1 cost spells, and it says battle cry, destroy all 1 cost spells in both hands and deck. So it works for you and your opponent. It's going to stop the Jade Druids from going infinite. Is this a sole enough card to defeat Jade Druid as a whole? I don't know. Probably not. You know, there's still, I think they have up to 10-10. If they play all of their Jade cards, I guess they would be you'd be getting rid of at least one Jade Idol, right? So an 8-8 or a 9-9 is where the Jade will finally stop at before, you know, they don't have any more Jade cards. But you still have to get through that. You still have to get through that 6-6, 7-7, 8-8, 9-9s, plus an Aya and stuff like that. And we might even see the card. What was it? That Death Rattle card that we just went over. Maybe they start putting that card on Aya, so now you get 2 Ayas, which is even a bigger deal. I don't know. So I think this card will be used as a combo stopper. So will it be like a tech card? I think it will. How many of these in a deck? Probably just 1. I guess 2 of them would be a lot because it's not that great in regards to stats. It's 6 mana, 4/6. So you're sacrificing a lot by playing this card. It's the same stats as Reno Jackson. And let's think about what Reno Jackson did. He healed your guy back up to 30 HP. That is a huge ability for the stat price, right? Is this ability the same as like a Reno Jackson by stat wise? Not really. It's good, but it only works against particular decks. And some decks it'll actually help them. You know, you're playing against an aggressive based deck like a Hunter. They don't want to draw their 1 mana cards turn 6 or later in the game. So you just got rid of like what 5-6 cards in their deck maybe, and now they have a greater chance of drawing Savannah Highmane or N'Zoth or whatever kind of Hunter deck they're playing, right? So I don't think this is particularly amazing, but I don't think it should be noted off. I think based on what the meta looks like, this card will be really good, or I wouldn't say really good, but it'll be decent at best. I think that's what we'll leave it there. I think decent at best is a good way to keep it. The next one's going to be Tomb Lurker, neutral. It's a 5 mana, 5/3. Battle cry, add a random Death Rattle minion that died this game to your hand. So this includes everything, including your opponent. So, you know, they play a shitty Death Rattle or a shitty Death Rattle is generated. You have a chance to bring that back. Again, I don't like the 5 mana, 5. I don't like the 3 HP thing. It dies to too many. It dies to a 2 mana card. You know, there's a lot of 2 mana 3/2s. So you're paying 5 mana. They paid 2 mana, they killed your card. Granted, you generated a random Death Rattle, but again, could have been shitty. Your Death Rattle could be a great Death Rattle. Who the fuck knows? Normally by turn 5, how many great Death Rattles have you played, right? You played maybe a 2 mana Death Rattle or a 4 mana Death Rattle, and you had to curve them out, and I guess it's a 50-50 chance to bring it back. There's value in this card, yes, but are the stats worth the value? I think they're better cards that do Death Rattle shit, but we'll see. So I like the fact that it's neutral. You know, keep in mind the card that we just went over, the Geist and the Corpse Raiser, all those cards are neutral, so you're able to put them in any deck you want to try to test the N'Zoth package or whatever, you know, Death Rattle value N'Zoth deck you're trying to build. You're able to do that because they're neutral, and that's what I like. I wouldn't like cards if they were class specific and they were really good, because it sucks, because then you only could play that one particular card in that one class, and what if it's like not that great because that class doesn't really have a lot of the utilities to make that viable, right? So with these cards being neutral, I think it makes it a little bit more open to what we can experiment with and see what combos with what the best, right? To create the, just the best deck we can with the cards we have. So with that, that's going to wrap up this particular card review. I'm looking forward to doing some more. At this point, at the end of this video, we've roughly covered 50% of all of the cards in the set. So we still have quite a ways to go, and there is a lot more to see. So I'm looking forward to bringing you those guys, and I'm looking forward to playing with the cards myself. So as always, I'm Robert Warshak, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy whatever that, I fucked that exit up. I'm Robert Warshak, and happy whatever the hell day it is. I'll see you in the next video.